Let's see here. This is document 02. The Xenomorph, literally strange form in Greek. The origin of the species is unknown. The diet of the adult form is unknown, assumed carnivorous. Its lifespan is unknown. No conclusive evidence has yet determined if the species even requires oxygen or any other gas to breathe. Level of intelligence is assumed to be at least semi-sapient due to its ability to intentionally manipulate or destroy man-made objects to suit its needs. Limited tests have determined the creatures to be fast learners, only having to observe an action once to be able to repeat it. This is not an exploitable trait, however, as each individual is highly uncooperative with anything outside of its primary goals of feeding and reproduction. Anything that one of these species views as a threat is violently eliminated, provided that it does not endanger itself, its eggs, or its matriarch in the process. Preferred habitat can only be assumed by the conditions it tends to manipulate in its environment. Typically, the creature will coat surfaces of its nest in a material constructed from its own hardened saliva and the bones of its prey, creating an insulated area of high heat and humidity. Given the creature's preference for ambush tactics, this nest will typically be molded to resemble its own anatomy, allowing it to easily blend into their surroundings. Fog or mist can be seen clinging to the ground in these nests as well, aiding in obscuring the creatures. Extreme caution should be used when handling this monster, as not only does the creature itself possess an extremely hostile disposition, but its very blood is a powerful acid that is extremely hazardous to biological and non-biological material alike, corroding through steel plating in mere seconds. Projectile weapons of any kind are discouraged, even outside the environment of a spacecraft, due to the possibility of blood spray harming personnel. Flame units are the best way to exterminate these creatures safely. The basic life cycle of the Xenomorph is well understood, consisting of an egg stage, a parasite stage, a larval stage, and an adult. The following description assumes a humanoid or near humanoid host. As the creature adopts the traits of its parent host, it can be assumed to differ wildly between various hybrids. The egg stage may seem self-explanatory. However, these 2.5-foot tall eggs do not merely incubate and hatch like those of earth-born fowls, but act in a unique predatory fashion. The eggs can lie dormant and viable for years, perhaps centuries, before the presence of a host triggers a reaction. As soon as a host enters within range, the egg will open up much like the petals of a flower before a parasitic form of the creature is ejected. It is unknown how this reaction is triggered, as movement from ill-suited creatures or machinery does not seem to trigger this release. This new parasitic form, known as a facehugger, usually lashes directly onto the face of its target, but can also run and jump on 8 bony legs. A long whip-like tail aids in subduing the host. Inevitably, whether through the chemicals this parasite infuses into its host or through simple oxygen deprivation, the host will lose consciousness for several hours to several days. During this time, the parasite will implant an embryo into the host. After this is accomplished, the facehugger will typically expire after a few hours. It is possible, but rare, for the facehugger to attack another potential host within this short time span. This embryo is known as the chestburster, for reasons that soon become clear. The embryo rapidly grows, consuming and absorbing parts of the flesh and organs of its host, feeding off of blood vessels and rendering even surgically precise attempts at removal nearly impossible. This gives it the nutrition it needs while preventing any kind of externally noticeable growth within its host. After anywhere from hours to days, the foot-long chestburster will live up to its name and chew through the host, typically emerging through the host's rib cage. The chestburster, perhaps the most vulnerable form of the creature's life cycle, will then flee and hide itself away from anything that may wish it harm. It is unknown whether there exists a juvenile stage between the infant and the adult, but it is safe to assume the creature does not grow to its full, approximately human size in a single molt. During this time, the creature may feed on matter in its surroundings to aid in its growth. This is assumed, but has never been seen. As the creature matures, its flesh will darken, its pale yellow skin turning a shining black, enabling it to hide in the shadows and amongst man-made machinery quite well. The adult form is massive compared to the rest of its life cycle. Its head is elongated, resembling an eyeless human skull stretched to an obscene length, and a jaw lined with razor-sharp metallic teeth. Inside this jaw rests what only can be described as a tongue, itself having evolved to resemble a miniature maw, capable of extending with explosive force into prey. Typically, this inner jaw is used to kill or stun prey by striking them in the head, allowing the creature to carry off the prey for feeding or breeding. In some instances, the aliens can project their own acidic blood from their maws, blinding or killing prey outright. Its body resembles that of a skeletal human, with tube-like protrusions on its back, serving a currently unknown purpose. A massive tail extends from the creature's lower back, covered in sharp spines and serving as a counterbalance to the alien's oversized head. The tip of the tail bears a spear-like point and has been observed to penetrate even armored prey with deadly ease. Each limb of the alien ends in 6 to 4 digits, varying from organism to organism. Despite the human host, the Xenomorph exhibits a digitigrade rather than plantigrade walk, meaning it walks on its toes. Adults seem to communicate with each other as well as warn other organisms with distinctive hissing sounds, screeching when in pain. Their communication methods may also include pheromones as well as some form of telepathy or hive mind. Neither have been confirmed. This adult will go on to capture more hosts and bring them back to its nest for reproduction. It is rare, if not entirely unheard of, for adults to attack prey in the open unless absolutely necessary. Things such as man-made ventilation have been used by these creatures to better move about unseen. Man-made light sources are typically destroyed directly or have their power source cut to better conceal the creature's approach as well, hinting at the Xenomorph's level of intelligence. This is definitely a reason to be scared of the dark. It is speculated that as the standard adult is incapable of producing new eggs on its own, it will molt into a matriarch form known as the Queen, who gains a far stronger carapace, increased intelligence, and can lay dozens of eggs a day. Very little is known about this phase of the Xenomorph life cycle. It is possible that queens are only produced from queen embryos, or even have a special variant of facehugger, known as the royal facehugger. This is entirely speculative, given the strange nature of the Xenomorph as a whole. Any or all of these theories may be true. So, the next time you look up at the stars and wonder what's out there, just remember that we found these things when we went looking. Sometimes it's really just best to be left wondering. That ends document 02.